Welcome to channel. Trump's trade war is collapsing, with Canada and Mexico delivering the knockout punch. Trump's trade war strategy is unraveling as Canada and Mexico deal a decisive setback to his ambitions. Trump's trade war has backfired spectacularly, with Canada and Mexico striking the final blow to his plans. Trump believed his tariffs would divide and weaken North America's neighbors, but the opposite has happened. In a historic move rattling Washington, Canada and Mexico have pledged to deepen their cooperation and confront his threats together. The timing couldn't be worse for Trump's agenda. This new alliance could spell the beginning of the end for his trade war strategy. This week highlighted just how badly Trump miscalculated. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney traveled to Mexico City for a strategic summit with President Claudia Sheinbaum, the first Canadian Prime Minister to visit Mexico in 8 years. Far from being a simple diplomatic gesture, the meeting signaled a fundamental shift in North American relations. Together, the two leaders announced they would coordinate their strategy for next year's review of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, making it clear they will not be cowed by Trump's economic threats. Trump believed tariffs would divide North America's neighbors and force them into submission. Instead, he's achieved the opposite. Despite being under active tariff attack, Canada hit with a 35% tariff on non-USMCA goods, and Mexico facing 25% tariffs, plus a separate 25% fentanyl tariff. Both countries are standing shoulder to shoulder in open defiance. President Claudia Sheinbaum captured the moment perfectly, declaring that Mexico and Canada will continue walking together with mutual respect, while Prime Minister Mark Carney doubled down, stressing they would move forward as one. In diplomatic language, that's a direct rejection of Trump's divide and conquer strategy. This is a disaster for Trump's playbook. His entire tariff war depended on using America's economic leverage to pit Canada and Mexico against each other, lowering their bargaining power and bending them to his terms. But he misunderstood the relationship. Canada and Mexico are not just two separate countries trading with the U.S. They're part of an integrated North American economy built over decades. By attacking both at once, Trump has pushed them closer together. The numbers tell the story. Mexico and Canada are the U.S.'s largest and second largest trading partners. At the same time, the U.S. is their top trading partner. That creates what economists call mutual vulnerability. Everyone has too much to lose if trade collapses. But instead of breaking that system apart, Trump's tariffs are creating new opportunities for Canada and Mexico to integrate further at America's expense. By slapping higher tariffs on Chinese goods and on Canadian or Mexican ones, Trump has accidentally made North American supply chains more competitive. Canadian and Mexican firms are grabbing U.S. market share from Chinese rivals, while American companies are rediscovering that regional supply chains are cheaper and more reliable than Asian ones. Here's where Trump's economic illiteracy is on full display. Tariffs are paid by U.S. importers, not foreign governments. That means higher costs for American businesses and consumers. A 35% tariff on Canadian steel raises U.S. manufacturing costs. A 25% tariff on Mexican pharmaceuticals drives up American healthcare costs. Meanwhile, Canadian and Mexican exporters who qualify for USMCA exemptions are actually gaining ground. In short, Trump is weakening American competitiveness while strengthening the very countries he's trying to punish. The timing makes this even worse for him. Public consultations on the USMCA review just began. By presenting a united front now, Canada and Mexico are ensuring Trump will face a coordinated bloc representing his two largest trading partners. Worse still, Trump has already undermined himself by imposing tariffs that blatantly violate the USMCA, the very agreement he once hailed as a signature achievement. Both Canada and Mexico have filed complaints at the WTO, pointing out that Trump is breaking trade rules he helped write. By ignoring dispute resolution mechanisms built into USMCA, he signaled he can't be trusted to honor any deal. The politics are equally damaging. Carney has built his political brand on standing up to Trump and won both his party leadership and a national election on that message. The more Trump attacks, the stronger Carney becomes. In Mexico, Sheinbaum has taken a more measured tone, but she's been just as firm. She rejected Trump's threats of military action against cartels and ignored a symbolic renaming of the Gulf of Mexico. And the data shows his tariffs are failing outright. Over 85% of Canada-U.S. trade and 84% of Mexico-U.S. trade remains tariff-free under USMCA rules. His measures are small enough to leave integration intact, but large enough to spark maximum backlash. He's chosen the worst of both worlds, angering allies without gaining leverage. The costs to Americans are piling up. Canadian tourism to the U.S. is down 40%, threatening $4 billion in losses. Manufacturers face higher input prices. Consumers are paying more for everything from cars to medicine. Meanwhile, Canada and Mexico are laying the groundwork for a future without U.S. dominance. They're exploring bilateral trade expansion, port infrastructure dedicated to their partnership, and new maritime routes that bypass the U.S. entirely. Trump set out to isolate America's neighbors. Instead, he's driving them into an alliance that could reshape North America and sideline the U.S. in the very system it once led how Trump's tariffs were supposed to cement American dominance in North America. Instead, they're accelerating a strategic shift that leaves the United States on the outside looking in. Economists call it a network effect. The more Canada and Mexico work together, the more valuable their partnership becomes, and the less dependent they are on Washington. They're not abandoning the U.S. altogether, but they're building alternative pathways that shield them from America's volatility. The irony is striking. America First has ended up making America less central, less reliable, and less trusted. Instead of increasing U.S. leverage, Trump has taught Canada and Mexico they can't depend on American leadership, and that they need their own sources of strength. This is happening at exactly the wrong time for U.S. strategic interests. China is courting both countries through its Belt and Road Initiative. Russia, despite sanctions, is still probing for influence in the hemisphere. Europe is offering alternative investment opportunities. By alienating America's two closest neighbors, Trump is pushing them toward competitors. The Canada-Mexico alliance represents more than a short-term response to tariffs. It's a new way middle powers are navigating great power rivalry. Instead of choosing between the U.S., China, or Europe, they are choosing each other. Scholars call a third way balancing ties with major powers while building independent strength, and they bring complementary assets to the table. Canada offers vast natural resources, advanced technology, and European links. Mexico contributes a robust manufacturing base, a rising middle class, and ties across Latin America. Together, they form a formidable economic bloc that can negotiate with any power from a position of strength. For Trump, this is a strategic failure.